Or maybe throw a flag. I don't like this chair. Of course, that's not on the correct level. Maybe we should do that.
How many of you are on overload? Yeah, I know, I'm sorry. At least this way you can get it all at once, then you can take it home and process. I'll email you the rubrics in the packet, and then you can go back and review again. Okay?
The younger ones, I'm sure, are fine, right?
Right. I've read some of their essays, it doesn't work that way. All right. So we're moving on to honors in action. Honors in action, I don't know if y'all paid attention, but we really actually played with that in the Prezi presentation. On the cover, anybody notice something similar with the cover? It has the picture of the mountain climbers going up the side of the mountain on the snow.
Yep.
That's the background we used. Good try.
I saw it.
All right. Now, I can't guarantee my numbers are correct, but I think they are, okay? I'm going to step away from this funky mic because it bugs me. Okay. All right. So, last year, they gave out 80 Honors in Action Awards. And I'll break it down in just a moment. But what they did was they had the top 50, and then they had the top 30 because they gave 3 in each of the theme categories, but we had 10 themes last year. This year we only have 9. So if we're using the same calculations, there should be 77 awards. Okay? Based on the numbers, if we do the top 50 and then the top 3 in each of the themes. I've called headquarters, I'm waiting for clarification from you. Just wait.
So the top 3 per theme, they also win in top 50.
Not necessarily. I'll explain that in just a second. Okay. So if my numbers are correct, we're going with the 77, meaning top 50, and then the top 3 in each category. Okay. Okay. And there are 9 themes, by the way, on this round. Raise your hands. I'm curious. How many of you did theme 1? Anybody in here? And it doesn't matter, nobody's stealing secrets, it's all past due, right? Anybody theme 2?
Wait, last year or this year? I'm confused.
This year, the one we're writing for.
We can start over again.
Theme 1, Nature of the Quest.
Theme 1.
Okay. Theme 2, Ideas and Ideologies as Frontiers. Okay. Theme 3, Quest for Human Expression. Okay. You realize there's only one person from these chapters raising hands. It should be the whole chapter. Because this is a chapter thing. All right. 4 is exploring the natural environment. Okay. Theme 5, celestial frontiers. I'm dying to see how many did that are in that category because I can only imagine space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the stars. All right, theme 6, frontiers of temporal and spatial physics.
What?
Okay, I would love to tackle that one. I think of wormholes and things like that in that category.
Back to the Future.
Okay. Theme 7, health and medicine. Okay, theme 8, exploring the political economy. Got a few more in that one, okay? And theme 9, borders and boundaries. Okay. All right. So just an idea on that one. All right, the way that this breaks down, all right, every theme has top 3 winners in that theme only. All right? Everything. So in the sense for that category, you are only competing against the people who have done that same theme. That's it. Okay? You're not competing against the other themes, you're only competing against your theme. Okay? For the top 50, what that does is it takes the top 50 scores, no matter what the theme is, and the top 50 scored chapters are the ones that win those top 50. Does that mean that all of the ones in these other categories, in the themes, the top 3 get on the 50 count? No. If you have, I'm going to use 5 since we didn't have anybody in the celestial Frontiers one. I think people stayed away from that because they were thinking everybody was going to go for it. One of those. All right. But with theme 5, say we have the top 3, okay? But the scores in that category were really high for like the top 10 entries in that theme. Say those top 10 were highest or were higher than the highest in, say, theme 9. That means some of those folks will be on stage for the top 50. The theme 9 folks may or may not, depending on the scores of the rest of the groups and themes. Okay, so do you see how that's different? How you might win a theme award and may not win one of the top 50, or vice versa, you may win one of the top 50 and may not win a theme award. Now there are some chapters in here that I know won both. Okay, that meant they were in the top 1 of 3 in their theme, and they had one of the higher scores to get in the top 50. Okay, so you can win 2 awards with this, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to win both if you win the theme. Yes?
So the top 50 is basically an overall award?
Yes, it's an overall for all the themes. They take the top 50 scores from all themes combined, and those top 50 are the ones that get top 50 award. Okay? Everybody understand that funky breakdown? Yes?
Because of that, is it possible that a really awesome project could get both, or do they?
No, they can get both. Yeah, because you're only writing the 1 award. And depending on your scoring and the way you actually answer your questions, you could easily be the top scorer in your theme and win a top 50 easily.
Is the same number of awards at both regional and international level?
Different. Headquarters basically sends us the scores, and then we give a certain number, and it's different. And with our regional convention being connected with the international convention this year, it doesn't necessarily mean that if you win an award at the regional level, you're not necessarily guaranteed one at international level. And the flip, if you win one internationally, it still does not guarantee you a regional. Okay? We always had wondered how that really worked when we started submitting everything a while back. And we realized, we really did start realizing that it's not the same. It really isn't the same. Yeah.
So are there going to be 77 total awards at the regional level and 77 at?
No, this is the international level.
Okay.
This is just at the international level. And you don't apply regionally for this award. It's all through internationals, and then they let the region know who gets which awards at the regional level. Okay. Word count. How many of you have massive honors and action projects? Okay, go ahead and raise your hands. 90% of you I know have massive projects. Okay. I've seen some of your work already. Okay. At least with this one, you get a few more words. This one you get 2,600 words, but there's more questions. College project had 5 questions. This one has 12, and you get 2,600 words. Yeah, it is a little bit rough. Same thing though. The 2 biggest things I can tell you to do right off the bat: answer the question, and then write it all out first. And we can always go back and cut and edit later. Okay? So you can always cut and edit later. Okay. So when we're dealing with honors and action, they actually have a definition for honors and action. It is, these are the components that they're looking for. Okay? Academic research and analysis, leadership roles and leadership development, those are separate, and I'll explain those in a moment. Action, which can be the service or advocacy, collaboration, and then reflection. So do you remember at Honors Institute when they talked to you guys about journaling? I know they did. They always do. They drill it into the ground and you're like, yeah, whatever. How many of you actually been journaling? Good. Good for the ones of you who did, because you are going to be the ones necessary to help write this particular award. Because when you go back to looking at where did you start, how did you start picking back in the spring. How many of you remember that process? Some. How many of you remember all the details of the way you picked it?
From my journal, does that count?
Yes, exactly. If you journaled it, you bet. If you haven't journaled it, you're having to remember it. It's kind of one of those things that's like, well, I think it might have been so-and-so that thought about this, but we're not really sure. Well, if you're not sure, how are you going to put it in your paper? Oh. All right. So the journals become very important at this point. Now, the way you write your essay, you must also ensure that you are letting the judges know that your project idea came out of the research. Okay? You didn't just pick your project. We're going to explore how Dallas can have a space center. As we're doing theme 5. I'll continue with theme 5, okay? Since nobody did that. We think that is a need in our area, that Dallas needs a space center. Okay? So now we can do our research on why we don't have a space center. It doesn't really work that way. Okay? You look at the theme that your officer group has selected. You're also going to look at the process that they chose that theme through. Okay? Not just, okay, advisor says, here, this is the theme we're doing. It doesn't really work like that either. All right? But if that was your process, make sure to put it down. Okay? There should have been more discussion, I'm hoping. Most of your chapters are really good at discussion, so I'm hoping it was more. And then you start researching avenues and things in that area, ideas, just anything and everything. And generally, once you've done that exploration, the project just kind of hands itself to you and says, here's the hole in the community, can you fill it? All right. It generally will happen that way if you've done your research in a really in-depth manner. And when they're talking about the in-depth manner, one of the categories when we're in the rubric itself, and it's talking about your 8 resources, they look at the rigor of your resource, of what did you have to do to get that resource, and that you have a good variety of resources, that they're not all internet sites that you could have pulled up in one afternoon. Okay? They're really looking for a good variety on that kind of thing. Okay. Okay, so they have 12 questions that we get to answer for this one. Okay, do you remember when I said brief in college projects? This is the exact same thing. A brief abstract, okay, or summary of your owner's project that includes the following components: academic research and analysis, leadership roles, leadership development, action, collaboration, and reflection and outcomes. I promise I'm not touching the light. All right? It has to have all of that. However, when you pull something up on the internet and you read an abstract, how long is it? Just a few sentences sometimes.
Maybe a long paragraph.
Okay? Yeah, it can be a paragraph. You do not want this one long, because if you make this long paragraph, you can use too many words. Okay? Briefly describe. I've seen some of the chapters on that stage when it says briefly describe, but they hit all of the components this question is asking. Get it done in 3 sentences, sometimes 4 sentences. Tell us the project. They're not wanting the details here. Okay? You get the kind of sense that they're not really wanting all the details of your projects. They're not. That's why if some of you have similar projects, it really doesn't matter, because it's the process and your research that led you to those ideas as to what they're really looking for. Okay? All right. So question 1. Question 2 is, what theme did you choose? This is just a drop-down box and you click it. It does not add anything as far as word count on this one. If that was the case, everybody would choose theme 5 because it only had 2 words, right? This one is not affected. And same principle when you guys use the RTF, the rich text format, you want to do the exact same thing for this one as well. Use the RTF. Okay? All right, question 3. Why and by what process did you choose this theme? Why did you pick it and what was the process? Okay. And I've had questions by people asking, in the training classes we've had, people ask, well, is that the order that this should be done? Sometimes they say, shouldn't you have the process and then why you ended up picking it? You can do either. According to Susan Edwards, there is no pattern, just as long as you get both of those components in that question. We talked to her probably 3 years ago on that because it was worded the same way. Okay? All right, so again, we're going back to how did you choose the theme? What was the process? Now, I know some of you in your officer training, that's when you pick your theme, and it's usually the beginning of summer. Right? Some of you have your alumni come in and do training with you, so I know what some of your processes are. And some of you go through the theme, the book, and you'll go through and you'll say, okay, I'll choose theme 1. Will you take theme 2? You take theme 3. You take 4. You take 5. And then tomorrow, when we can reconvene with our continuation of our honors or with our officer training, everybody comes with some research or something to tell about that theme so we can actually discuss that. All right? Some of the chapters do that. Some of them go through and put sticky notes, the jumbo sticky notes, all over the walls with the different themes, and everybody has to write their ideas about the themes. Some of them actually do presentations to each of the groups, like a collaboration team chose theme 1, this team chose theme 2, and they do a full presentation saying why we should choose this theme. Okay, I've seen all kinds of different things with y'all on these, how you choose them. So you can do any of those things, but you need to make sure you detail that process, and then tell us why you picked it. Or you tell us why you picked it, and then tell us how you decided that was the one for you. Okay. Question 4 is list the 8 academic expert resources. It talks about the format and all that in this question, so it'll give you, when I email this to y'all, it'll tell you how they're kind of looking for it. It doesn't necessarily have to be to the T exactness, as long as you're consistent with all of the way, with each one. Right? If you do an interview and you cite an interview one way and then you have another interview and it's cited a different way, they're going to dock you for that because it's not consistent. Right? But as long as everything is consistent, they're going to on that. And they do give you some examples. This is also where the majority of your words come into play. You don't want this section to take up a lot of words, but it will. Because with each of the 8, and you can only have 8, all right? Now, does that mean you only have 8? No. Your chapter should have at least 15 different options on this one to choose from. And then you go back and you need to put a brief description of why that particular resource was so important to what your project was. And then you can go back and look at those 15 or however many you really have, and then you pick your top 8. Which were the most important? That's what the top 8 is for. Okay, you've got to pick the top, how these directly relate to the topic that you ended up choosing. Okay. And that all goes in question 4, which ends up being a ton of words. Then if you do a web address, go to either bit.ly, B-I-T-L-Y, bit.ly.com, or tinyurl.com, and shrink it down. Especially if you've gone on the library databases, you know how if you copy the link, it's like 4 lines long, okay? That would add 70 words.
So they, like each slash starts a new word?
Yeah, and it's not just one word, sometimes it counts as 2 or 3. So if you go under bit.ly or tinyurl, they shrink it to almost nothing. It sometimes counts as maybe 2 words, sometimes 3.
But if you use a library resource that they have to log into to ever get access to it, you don't necessarily have to use the URL. Just say what it is and not even include the URL because headquarters won't need the URL if it requires them to log in or anything like that. If you properly describe it, it's fine.
That's what the little descriptions underneath are for. Yes.
So now we're talking about the reality, right?
Yes,
And that is included in the work of the word count?
yes, it is included on the word count, and this is generally the section that eats your lunch on word count.
Okay, and that is okay to just use in like Hallmark, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Big thing is to be consistent, and also, when you ever use titles or names, well, like say you do a doctor, if there's multiple doctors, they all have to be doctor, or they all have to be PhD.
You don't have both, or you don't flip one to be the doctor and another one to be a PhD.
It's whatever you feel is shorter, or you want to do.
Can't use APA, right? Can't use APA on this.
They prefer MLA on everything. All right. What conclusions did your chapter reach based on your research, and how did these conclusions guide you to select the action part? I'm not asking you to describe the project. I'm asking you to tell me what in your research led you to choose that project and why. A lot of people want to fill this with the project. That's not what they're asking in this section. Okay. Next question says, summarize your objectives for the Honors in Action project.
Okay, sorry.
Summarize your objectives for the Honors in Action project. These are your goals for the project. Again, I'm not asking you about your project. I'm asking you about your goals. Okay. And I have seen some really good ones on this one with bullet points. Just saying. That have been up on that stage last year. Yeah.
Thinking about the goals that we had as a process, or goals that we have
For the project itself.
for the project itself.
Not the project, but the goals of the project. So by this time, up to, let's see, questions 1 through 5 are basically talking about the research.
Right.
Question 1, briefly describe it, that's it. 2, what theme. 3 starts with the process of why you chose the theme, then the research, and what conclusions did you draw from the research. That's it. Okay. Okay. Yes.
So you're saying it would not be considered inconsistent to use paragraph form on all the rest, but maybe have ones here?
You'll probably want to do some, yeah. What I've seen from the groups that were on stage last year, and I haven't seen all of them, but I have seen many of them, they'll have like a paragraph above saying, here's our processes, and then here were our goals. And then they bulleted the goals. Now, and I've also seen on the flip side, I have seen some that did all essay format in that section. And both turned out very nicely done. And they were both on stage. All right. Question 7. With whom did you collaborate for the project? I'm still not asking you about your project. I'm asking you who you collaborate with. All right. This is the one where you want to talk about if you collaborated with people in your community. Anybody on campus. This is not necessarily a campus project. This is your research for a need in the community, which could be campus or city or area. Right? I'm just thinking like with the Houston districts, with the Dallas districts, Austin is one chapter, the San Antonio districts. You're competing for city, right? So it might be that it's more personal in that it's a need very close to your area. Depends on what your research led you to. Question 8, describe the leadership of chapter members that contributed to the planning, preparation, and implementation. The exercise of leadership may come from groups, committees, officers, and non-officers. Leadership roles are not necessarily those that come with titles. Okay. Now, when you're looking at the points for this stuff, they break this category down into 2 separate things, and you're going to want to address these in each one of these sections, kind of like we talked about with college project, where you make sure to hit all of these components with each of the questions. But there's a separation between leadership roles and leadership development. Okay? Those are 2 different things, and they're looking for two separate things when they're grading this one. Okay? Leadership roles are geared more towards not necessarily the position itself, okay? But I was in charge of contacting the city library to work with them on X, Y, and Z. I took a leadership role, okay? Leadership development might be, okay, I went to the city library, met with them, they got me up to date, and then I came back to the chapter and I presented the information to them, so I taught my fellow officers and members what we need to do and how they need it done. It is now for them a leadership development. Okay. How many of you automatically knew how to do research? You are the kings and queens and automatically knew without any training how to do research. Exactly. How many of your chapters brought in a campus librarian? Or you might have had an advisor who was a really good researcher. How many of you used your resources like that? Okay, and they came in and they taught you how to do good research, right? How to do research well. That is leadership development. Okay. Are we clear on the distinction between leadership role versus leadership development? Because they want to see both of these things. Okay.
You have a question over there.
Question, yes.
Yeah.
I'll get you next.
The development is taking a concept and bringing
So
it
he's
to
even
the
paying
chapter,
like
whereas
I'm just saying.
roles is doing all by yourself.
Not necessarily. Roles might be an assigned something, okay? Or the creation of a committee. That would be part of a role, okay? Leadership development is more about not necessarily me bringing that information to the chapter, but maybe bringing somebody in to do that for us, to teach us. It's about growth. It's about how you use what you're doing to grow and learn. Okay, it's a little different in that manner. Are you with me? Kind of, sort of? Okay. It's also, I'm trying to think of the example we used last time, because it was a little,
Yeah, mom's thing is
it was different.
they set up the altar or whatever it is, and
Do you think, huh?
the thing. Yeah, investments. Sorry, I was raised Catholic.
That's right.
I grew up with my dad. He was Baptist.
A leadership role might be you are asked to be on this particular committee. That is your role in that project. Okay? And that committee may have had to learn how to do something. So you got some leadership development by having to learn it, right? And then that committee had to go to, say, the high school to present a workshop on financial literacy to the high school students. The leadership development comes from two phases with that. It comes from you teaching, it comes from them learning. Okay? Your role was because you were a member in the committee, and your job was to learn what you had to teach them. Okay, a little better? Okay.
In terms of the actual writing process, if one member is tasked with a specific role that they are teaching or helping with leadership development for the rest of their chapter, in the write-up, do we use, like, say it's Michelle, do we say Michelle came in and taught us how to do so-and-so? Or do we just say we had leadership development?
Most of the time, what I've seen is they would say, let's say Michelle's title was the leadership VP, all right? You could say our leadership vice president, because they really don't care who it is,
Yeah.
right? Or officers brought in guest speakers to teach us about whatever.
Okay, so they don't care who is doing it, they just want to know that.
Right. Now, if it is a group of you who had to learn something, and then you turned around and taught it, that needs to go in there. But you don't want to list the individual names. If it was a committee, tell the committee. Because then you get into, again, more word count, which you just don't have enough of. Are we all still on the same page with that? Okay. Any more questions so far? Okay. All right. So just a couple more questions here. Describe the leadership, education, and training activities. See, this would fall under more of that development question. All right. Again, though, it's not talking about the project, it's talking about the growth of the members.
So basically, roles in development each have their own specific.
They're separate, yes. And you need to make sure that when you're writing it, that the judges know that you understand those are two different concepts. Yeah. All right. Describe the service or action component. This is what did you actually do? Okay. Was it an advocacy? Because some of you do advocacy. Or was it an action? Or was it both? Okay. And you can tell that in this section. But again, this is not the section you're going to spend paragraphs on. Okay. You just don't have the word count to do it. And as long as you answer the question, the service, what was it? Okay. And it actually breaks it down into where the point systems are. Again, we're not going for, what is it, 7 and 4 points, we're going for the 10. Okay. Again, we need all of you on the stage. I'm kind of picky like that. I like to see Texas on the stage. But when it says, for the action, project objectives clearly emphasize the importance of taking action or serving. Solid evidence is given that the participants heighten their awareness of self and community in relation to global issues. It tells you in this section for 10 points what they're looking for in this question. Okay, and they do that pretty much with every one of these questions. It tells you what they're looking for. So you just have to make sure to answer the question. 11, quantitative and qualitative, we've already talked about that. We know what quantitative and qualitative are. We also know lessons learned. We're going to put that in there as well. Okay. And then again, the very last section, what is left undone or what opportunities remain for the future? Okay. I know some of you present your projects at the end of the year or the beginning of next year to your board of trustees or your chancellor or the president's teams, things like that. You present all of what you did the last year. That might be something, it's still left undone. When you turn these in, you may not have done it yet. Okay? That's a left undone. But that's also showing leadership roles in development as well.
Well, if you look at it, though, if you do it at the beginning of the year, this runs January through December.
Right.
So
this
it would be
January to December, same with college project. But if it's in January that you're going to do the presentation, that's a left undone.
Right.
Okay. All right. Questions on that? That's question 12. Okay. What I want to do at this point, I want to take about 15 minutes for each group. All right. Each chapter that's here, I want you to get with your team members and discuss. We're only going to go 15 minutes, okay? But I want you to discuss what can you kind of think through with your journals and so forth on processes. Okay? Process of how did you choose your theme, process of how did you choose the goals once you got your theme and your project. Okay? You're not going to have a lot of time, but I want you to at least try to wrap your head around those two things. Okay? So about 15 minutes. So at 3:35, we're stopping at that point. Move something else. Okay. How did it go? You can hear me, clap one. You can hear me, clap twice. All right. Thank y'all. I know you're going to be doing this a lot coming up in your chapters, okay? I know this has been a lot of information to take in. Okay? For some of you, this is brand new. For some of you, it's kind of a review, but it's like, oh, I didn't catch that last time. Okay? I want to give you some updates. Before we move on real quick, though, I want to find out some of your chapters. How did it go? Did you guys get some good discussion with this? Yes. Okay. Anybody through your discussions end up with questions? Molly, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you meant like further questions.
Oh, I got you. I want to make sure that you have questions for us as well. Anybody with questions for us? Okay. But good questions for you guys to continue on what your path that you're headed for, right? Okay. Somebody says there's a question somewhere. I was thinking, like, what we did was, like, we voted and narrowed it down, and then we kind of chose a subtopic, but then what ended up happening was it didn't really fit our theme that we'd originally chosen, and so we kind of moved themes. Yeah, you can do that. But you're gonna put that as part of the process. And we changed it because of research, because we were like, yeah, this goes. Show that your research indicated that you went a different direction, and that's also gonna be put in the process. You bet. When you're writing your Hallmark Awards specifically for Honors in Action, if you look at your actual book, the Honors in Action Guide, okay? You're looking at the guidebook, there is a question at the top of every theme. Your overall stuff under that category should still answer that overall theme question. Okay? Because they're really looking to tie it back to that big, general, broad question that they ask for each of those separate themes. Okay? So make sure that throughout your process that you show how you were really looking at that theme, the question, the main question for the theme, and how it kept coming back. And if you deviated off the main path, that's fine. You need to put that because that's part of your process. And that is not a negative piece of the puzzle. Okay? Not negative in any format. Anything else? Okay. I want to give you guys some updates. First and foremost, some of you have been asking about the names on the board. These are your presenters' names. If you have questions, you need just general information, any of us can help you with anything you need, all right? Please feel free to take a picture, write it down. I'd say take a picture, it's just faster, right? But you are welcome to email us. We will get back to you. I know some of you have already been trying to schedule times with us for us to come meet with your chapter to work on editing and ideas. That's fine. The best way you're going to be able to get us, though, email what your schedule is, what you're thinking that your group can meet, and then get with us and say, okay, here are dates that are good for us, here are times that are good for us, give us some options, and then we'll try to work our schedule. If I can't go, maybe Deborah can go. If Deborah can't go, maybe Will can go, so that we can try to piece y'all's stuff together. But please remember, we do have full-time jobs, just like most of y'all. We will do our best to try to help you. Yes.
Just remind the other districts to let us know. We'll see if we can find somebody in that district.
Yes.
For especially like 4, 3, and 1, 5.
Exactly.
I mean.
So webcam folks, if you're in a different district and you have questions, let us know what district. And then we will connect you with someone in your district. Same with like the college, I know College of the Mainland's here. We've got some District 3 folks. Yes, they came all the way from way down near Galveston.
Wow.
Exactly.
Just to see me.
Or 2 over here. Anybody else come from not local? All right. I know we've got Trinity Valley Community College in Athens. Tammy came from District 4. She's the District 4 Vice President. Came from Lone Star College North Harris.
Good job.
Who else? I can't see and I don't know your chapter name, so tell me.
Austin,
Austin Community College, you bet. Which campus?
it's all of them,
Well, I know, but which campus?
various.
Okay. Lots of different. Okay. They have lots of campuses, one chapter, by the way. That's a big one. So does Trinity Valley. Who else? Anybody else from out of the area? And I know we've got folks on the webcam. El Paso and Odessa. Lots of other places. You bet. Connie, our District 1 coordinator, District 1 Vice President, set some stuff up for them. We've got a guest from Ohio online. All right, so please make sure to let us know how we can help you. That's the whole purpose of today. All right, I do have a favor. Will, Deborah, can you guys come up for me? Because I want to do a